This is your life. That was real life, or should I say real life and death at Arnhem 33 years ago. 1944 newsreel film. Now, I'm here tonight at Twickenham Film Studios just outside London because Sir Richard Attenborough, who's just made a film, directed a film about that wartime airborne assault, is going to help us meet a legendary hero of that battle. He's been helping, advising on some of the sequences, and he's coming down here. The film is called A Bridge Too Far, to watch those sequences now here in the editing room of the film studios, where I'm temporarily assistant to the real editor, Tony Gibbs here, who's also given us permission to insert an extra special scene into what's going to be watched on the moviola. And our man hasn't got the faintest idea what's going to come up there, so I'll get back to work and see what happens to him when he comes in.
Well, I say forgive the lights and things. Tony. Hello, son. How nice to see you again. How are you? Johnny. How nice to meet you. Come in the middle here because we can... Good, too. Here we go. This was Grabner, which you'll probably remember, certainly remember being shot.
General, just a moment. I know you couldn't possibly expect to see me here. We have met once before, but I want to meet you again tonight for a very special reason. Just turn around and look behind you. If you would, so that I can say, Major General John Frost, MC, DSO and Bar, hero of Arnhem and many battles besides. Tonight, this is your life.
Never thought you'd catch me.
You're coming along with this. Great. Well, this is your life, John Frost, a soldier's story, but a very special kind of soldier, because this is the man who, even among the host of heroes in that great airborne Battle of Arnhem, stood out for his qualities of courage and leadership. And as you discovered, Dickie, when you were making your film reconstruction of the battle, A Bridge Too Far, eh?
Absolutely. I mean, the extraordinary thing is that when you have read so much about someone, as I obviously had to read about the general, it's an amazing thing that when you meet him, his conduct and behaviour is so ordinary. In fact, you have to pinch yourself to realise that you are actually standing next to a legend. And he kept us on our toes, I might say. We had to do as we were told, otherwise he got very difficult indeed.
Look who's talking.
But we had a marvellous time with him, and because he had that star personality and yet that ordinary behaviour, we had to find a very particular star to play him. We had to find somebody who combined that personality and who could convey the magic of Johnny Frost.
Well, earlier this evening, John, we interrupted your viewing of Sir Richard's film in that respect, so let's give you another look right now at the way you are portrayed in that picture. First, though, there are two more people very close to you who are just as eager for a preview.
Me for one, Dad.
And me for another, Johnny.
Your wife, Jean, of course, and with her your 16-year-old son, Hugo. Well, Hugo, you're away at school and you've seen nothing of the picture yet, so watch now for the reconstruction of that great moment in your dad's life 33 years ago when he led his paratroopers in the defense of the bridge at Arnhem.
You're late, you lazy bastard, but we'll forgive you!
That was gracious of me, don't you think?
Take cover! Bring up the piers!
Chosen to play you there is tonight in Hollywood, but if you'll watch that screen again, he talks to you now from there, Anthony Hopkins.
Hello, Eamon, and hello, General Frost. I'm sorry I can't be with you tonight, General. And I hope you recovered from your experience of filming A Bridge Too Far. It must have been quite an unnerving experience for you watching an assortment of actors like myself trying to recreate the Battle of Arnhem. I remember one day, for example, when I was playing you, I had to run across the street under German sniper fire, and doing the best job I could, I ran as fast as a bat out of hell, which is what I think I would do under the situation. You came up to me afterwards and you said, you know, I wouldn't have run as fast as that. And I asked you why, and you said, well, I refused to run under gunfire. And I tried to show a certain degree of contempt for German bullets. And I remember that, I'll never forget that. It would be easy for me to say that that is a touch of madness, but I think it's probably the most imperishable part of the human spirit, and that is the courage that you and your men showed in that awful battle. I wish you very good luck for tonight, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony Hopkins. Well, your story begins, John, at Pune in India, already with a strong military connection because your late father's a soldier serving there. Now, there are two more Frost youngsters, both girls. That's you, with your late mother and younger sister, Betty. And those sisters of yours learned very early on where your future ambitions lie. Earliest when you were all together in the playroom, in fact.
That's when John used to take my toys as prisoners with his tin soldiers.
Your sister Diana, now Mrs. Pott, and with your other sister, Betty, now Mrs. Barclay. So, Diana, young John was showing some skill as a warrior even then.
Yes, that's quite true, Eamon. We had a big playroom, which we all shared, and we each had a section of it. But he had a tactical advantage because he had a model railway which went right round the room. I had a peaceful little farm set in my area, and he would send his soldiers on the model railway to raid my and take them back prisoner to his territory.
Well, from those beginnings, and with a father who's a hero too, winning a military cross in the Great War, as you were to do nearly 30 years later, it's no surprise that the young John Frost chooses an army career. From Sandhurst, your commission is a subaltern in the Cameronians, and you see overseas service in Iraq before war breaks out. Back in England, though, it's a newly formed unit that captures your attention, the Airborne Division, then a brand new way of going to war. When you volunteered, John, did you have a good head for heights?
No, terrible head for height.
But it's in 1942, now Major John Frost of the 2nd Parachute Battalion, that you're chosen to lead one of the most daring operations of the whole war. An airborne swoop on occupied France to capture radar equipment which is guiding enemy bombers to their targets in Britain, the place Brunaval in northern France, and at midnight on February 27th, 1942, you and a small hand-picked force parachute in. As commander, you lead the jump, and as one of your NCOs lands, he sees his CO already in action.
Quite right, Eamon. He was doing a pee in the middle of the field.
From 35 years ago, another hero of Brunaval, ex-Sergeant Jimmy Sharp, military medal and fire. Well, Jimmy, the CO set his man a magnificent example right through that action.
You're correct there, Eamon. But seeing his example in the middle of the field, being school under an enemy occupied territory, a lot of us followed his example and started making little holes in the snow. The things got a wee bit hectic after that, didn't it, sir? Actually, we were there to bring back the parts of a German radar installation, and bring them back for the Boffins in this country to reassemble and find out how far advanced Germany was with radar, and this we managed to successfully do.
We managed to do more than that. In fact, that raid is recognized as one of the most daring and successful parachute operations ever. And we have a picture of the return from that raid. That's you, Jimmy, there, John on the bridge, and the prisoners and equipment you bring back helped the scientists to unravel the secrets of enemy radar in a way that affects the whole course of the war. But among other things, it was a triumph for cheek, wasn't it, Jimmy?
Well, it certainly was. But there's one thing, if I was asked to do this ever again, I'd like to do it with the same comrades and with Johnny Frost in command.
Thank you, Jimmy Sharp. For your part in the Brunaval raid, John, you're awarded the Military Cross, and the raid becomes the first battle honour of the newly born Parachute Regiment. But for you, there's more action right away. Now, Lieutenant Colonel Frost and CO of the 2nd Battalion, you're ordered to North Africa. There's you and your men parading for the American commander, General Eisenhower. And it's in the fighting there, one of your officers discovers that in addition to your other qualities, you've a knack of acquiring transport for the battalion.
That's because any of Johnny's men who got separated from the unit would pinch anything on wheels to get back to him.
A comrade in arms from those early days, nearly 35 years ago, Lieutenant Colonel Doug Crawley, MC and bar. Now, Doug, you've told us that John's 2nd Battalion ended up with an embarrassing amount of transport.
Well, there was a strong rumour amongst the troops, Damon, that when they got out of hospital after recovering from wounds, that they were liable to be sent to a base depot. And from there, they might go to any ordinary infantry battalion. But, of course, this simply wasn't acceptable to any of John Frost's men. And so they made a habit of bailing out on their way to the base depot and borrowing any transport that happened to be available, truck or motorbike, and making their way back to the battalion by that means. In fact, some of them got about 500 miles from Algiers up to the front to rejoin the battalion.
He had to take some action about it, hadn't he?
Well, he then issued an order that men coming back to the battalion must not pinch transport.
Thank you, Colonel Crawley. And if you won the affection of your men in that fierce fighting in North Africa, you also won the respect of your enemy. It's in March 1943 that in one desperate battle, your depleted battalion is almost overrun. And from prisoners that you take, you learn the name of your opponents, the Witzig Regiment. Now, it's 35 years since that battle, John, but if you look at that screen, you'll see for the first time, now living near Munich in Germany, your opposing commander of the Wehrmacht Parachute Engineers, Colonel Rudolf Witzig.
We have never met, John Frost, but your name is well known to me, and also the name of your men, whom we fought in North Africa, the men who fought so fiercely that we gave them the name the Red Devils. You were one of those Red Devils, and you gave us much trouble, but you fought as fairly as you fought well. You were in the same situation with your troops as I was with mine, always where the battles were fiercest. Now, 34 years later, we are enemies no more, and I'm glad we are friends. I know that if I were to meet you in person, it would give me the greatest pleasure to shake your hand.
And you're going to meet now because the Colonel is not in Germany. He's flown here to meet you for the first time, now retired Army Colonel Rudolf Witzig. Thank you, Colonel Witzig. Of the endless, dangerous days in 1943, there's one in particular that by all the odds should have ended the John Frost story most abruptly. Fighting in Tunisia, you're standing with the sergeant major by the open door of a farm building when machine gun bullets smack into the mud wall only inches away. The sergeant major dives for the doorway, but you dive in the other direction.
And thank God he did, or he wouldn't have lived to fight another day.
From Bill, you reckon that of dozens of close shaves in action with John, that was the closest.
When I dived for the doorway, and I kept shouting, "This way, sir." And if he'd have followed me immediately, I'm afraid we'd seen no more of the Colonel. But with this uncanny knack he had of an instinct he had, he dashed the other way, and thank God that you did, sir, otherwise this place would never have been the same without you.
In fact, Mrs. Tate, you're almost as much an expert on John Frost as your husband here from all the tales of him that Bill has told you.
Yes, that's true. You know, Bill had always such faith in his Colonel, and he often talked to me about it.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Bill Tate. When the campaign in Africa ends, you lead your battalion in the air invasion of Sicily, on into Italy, and there's more hard action. But in December 1943, it's back to England because there's an even bigger job on hand, D-Day. And though you don't know it then, there's to come that moment in September 1944 when you're to spearhead the great assault aimed to finish the war in a single stroke, Arnhem. And your job in the biggest airdrop ever, the toughest task of all, to seize and hold the Arnhem Bridge, the last vital stepping stone to the final attack against Germany. A thoroughly daunting task, but one that you approach with your customary coolness.
Johnny's first order was to his batman, to pack his golf clubs and dinner jacket.
Another Arnhem veteran, Major Victor Dickie Dover, MC. Tell me, Victor, was John's batman surprised at that order?
I don't think so. Dennis Swix, he had served John for a long time. No, I don't think he was a bit surprised. He understood at once that this order really meant this operation was going to be a complete success. And in a few days, I may not want my dinner jacket, but I'll certainly want my golf clubs. He had the great philosophy that there was no such thing as defeat. It didn't exist. That his own 2nd Battalion, no one could defeat them.
But that battle, John, was to be tougher than even you secretly expected. You and the 600 men under your command seize your objective, but you're cut off from all help. And a swift fight that was planned to last for 24 hours stretches into days. And we can see just how ferocious that battle was now as we look again at the film reconstruction of the fight in A Bridge Too Far. That hell continues for 3 days and 4 nights, and you're in the thick of it, directing the defense, encouraging your men, an example that none of the survivors will ever forget. And there's more of them here tonight. Come in, Ex-Sergeant Alfred Darky Reynolds, Ex-Private Walter Rook, Ex-Corporal Ron Holt, and Ex-Sergeant Stan Halliwell. I judge from many of 1,000 memories of Colonel Johnny Frost in that Arnhem battle, but Stan, you've a story that sums up the defiance and courage that he showed.
That's true, Eamon. I was taken prisoner at the height of the battle for the bridge. And the men remaining at the bridge were in a bad way. And my captors decided that I should be sent back with an ultimatum for Colonel Frost. The choice was to surrender or annihilation.
And what was his reply?
Tell him to go to hell.
Thank you, Stan Halliwell, Victor Dover, Darky Reynolds, Walter Rook, and Ron Holt. Enemy tanks and flamethrowers in ever-increasing numbers literally obliterate your defensive positions, and when the battle ends, out of the 600 men of your beloved 2nd Battalion and those fighting with them, just 19 escape. You're among the wounded, and your war ends in a prison camp, but not your soldiering career. And in 1945, you meet Jean for the first time, and Jean, he showed that soldierly quality of an instant decision at your very first meeting.
Quite right, Eamon, yes. After our first meeting, I found out later that he said to the chap who was with him, "I'm going to marry that girl." And that's how it worked out.
Yes, it did, and here's the wedding day on the 31st of December, 1947. And in 1953, another great day, the arrival of your first baby, a beautiful youngster who's grown up to be a fashionable model and who, as you know, has just flown out to Sardinia on a filming assignment. But if you watch that screen, she talks to you now, your daughter Caroline.
Hello, Dad. I'm sorry not to be with you tonight, but I'd just like to take this opportunity of telling you how great you are as a dad, and also for the achievements that you've made for our country, which I didn't really appreciate the full extent of until I was about 17 or so. But you really have done a lot for all of us, and I think it's tremendous. And you're not bad as a dad either. Love you very much. Hope you have a smashing time tonight.
Thank you, Caroline. Well, there's more overseas service for you, John, during the fighting in Malaya, but it's in 1960 that you're in charge of an exercise in Northumberland, and asleep in your command caravan one night during a lull in a mock battle, you're shaken by the shoulders and a messenger brings you a special dispatch from the home front.
Sir, for unto you a son is born.
The man who brought you that news 16 years ago, he's flown back from command of an exercise in Germany, then your brigade major, now Major General Michael Walsh, DSO. Michael, the son, of course, was Hugo here. How did John receive the news?
Well, you must remember he was fast asleep at the time. And when I woke him up rather rudely and shook him by the shoulder, he suddenly shot up, hit his head on the roof of the caravan, cussed me in the true Cameronian style. I was rather taken back, and all I could think of to say was, "Unto you a son is born." Whereupon he sat up again, hit his head for the second time.
Well, obviously he forgave you.
Well, I think so, because a few weeks later, I learnt that they'd called their son Hugo Michael.
Thank you, General Michael Walsh. Well, those bangs on the head can't have done too much damage, John, because you go on to complete a most distinguished career. You retire from the army with the rank of Major General in 1967, and you spend your days now as a farmer in Hampshire, a long way from the din of battle. But to the men of the Parachute Regiment, the name of Johnny Frost will always be a legend. And if you watch that screen now, you'll see their special tribute. Over to Aldershot, then, to meet the junior soldiers platoon of today's Parachute Regiment.
Three cheers for Major General Frost! Hip hip! Hip hip! Hip hip!
And the band have gone one better than that, John. A detachment is here to play in another parade. More veterans of the 2nd Battalion who fought with you more than 30 years ago at Brunaval, North Africa, Sicily, Italy, and Arnhem. Your friends and comrades in arms are here, John, but before we finish, I want to recall one more dramatic moment in your life. Doug Crawley, you were with John in the final hours of the Arnhem battle when a mortar bomb landed close in front of you. Will you tell us what happened next?
Actually, Eamon, there were three of us together, and we were blown in all directions, Johnny and I sharing the metal between us and our legs. The general, or the colonel then, Batman, was the first to pull himself together, and he dragged Johnny into a small room to shelter him from anything else which came down. He then came back for me. He then took a pistol out of Johnny's holster, cocked it and put it in his hand, and said, because there were still Germans all around us, said, if any Germans come through that door, sir, shoot! He then went for the stretcher bearers.
Well, shortly after that, both you and Dennis Wicks, your Batman, were captured, John, and you didn't meet again. But for 33 years, you've never given up the search to find him, even taking out newspaper advertisements asking for information. Well, John, we found him for you, and he's here. Come in, ex-private Dennis Wicks. John Frost, this is your life.